Dawson Rider review.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Time for my review for the Power Rangers Beast Morphers season finale. Again. So yeah, we're covering this again just like all the others after I did the international airings. And my opinions haven't really changed all that much. I didn't like re-watch any of my previous reviews just to sort of keep it fresh, and I'm kind of curious how much might have changed. But I thought this was a solid finale, if not a bit rushed. I honestly do think last week's episode was better. I almost kind of wish they had sort of constructed this as more of a two-parter and let it flow together a little bit more. It was decent, it just felt like a rush to the finish line in a lot of ways. I mean, we're starting off with the Rangers and now Devon's dad on the same team trying to get Devon back from the cyber dimension and also stop Evox from arriving in our dimension and stuff like that. So they're kind of getting the gate ready. I like that they made use of that they had those pieces from earlier. That was a good reason to actually have them around, because that was something that never made sense to me. They're like, oh, let's save these pieces from this dangerous plan. I'm like, why are you saving it? Now we know. So I like that. I appreciated that callback, something that's not often done. There was something I wanted to address right at the beginning, which I think I forgot to talk about in my Australian review because I was too busy trying to keep the accent up. No, I didn't. Can you imagine if I tried to do an accent in all those videos? Anyway, I'm Australian, mate. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. There was a moment when they were like testing the gate stuff that I think it was Ben and Betty had the antics. I think it was Betty that like got all loopy and warped because of the gate. And I thought that moment was extremely out of place. I mean, I do think Ben and Betty has been an improvement over last year's Victor and Monty stuff. I'm not saying all their humor landed or that type of humor is even something I'm interested in, but I do think that there's been improvements, but that is definitely one of my more major complaints against their characters, is that, and it's not even about their characters actually, it's more about the writers putting them in the episode at awkward places, and this was one of them. Ever since episode 1, there's been moments where they really will cut the tension in a moment, or their presence feels awkward, like narratively, like it interrupts the flow in a really noticeable way. And there was another comedic moment, like Oompa Loompa moment, not Oompa Loompa, but Willy Wonka Blueberry moment at the end. And like, that wasn't funny to me, but at least it made sense because it was like, hey, happy ending, everyone's back to normal, Ben and Betty and their antics. But this was like super tense, like we gotta save the world, we gotta save Devon, and they're like, whoa, look at me! And I would've been like, you know what, send them through the gate, they're done. It's just, I hate that. It's like, I know that the show wants to have humor, and I'm not saying humor doesn't have its place, but it really breaks the tension. And it's not even about the fact that it's not my type of humor, it's just the fact, like I said, it's breaking up the narrative flow and tension, which really bothers me. And I was then bothered that I think I forgot to mention in my international review, so I had to bring that up. But anyway, they obviously eventually end up there and they're doing battle. And something I really liked about this was they saved the Ultrazord debut for this, as like, okay, we need to bring out the big guns, what do we got? And I liked the idea of that because we're sort of used to more of the traditional debut times for things in PR and Sentai, and it's kind of changed up a little bit because of the way that the episode counts and airing schedules are over the last few years. But the idea of having the Ultrazord be a season finale thing I thought was really cool, so I really dug that. And then we got a nice heart-to-heart moment with Devon and his dad when we got into the dimension. We did some battle with Evox. There was like a really brief like ground fight where they're like, morphin' time, let's go! Oh crap, we're not morphed anymore. I'm like, that seemed unnecessarily short. I'm not sure why that was so short. And then also, Devon and Blaze had the final face-off for this season, and so that happened there. They did wind up, obviously, preventing Evox from getting to our dimension, at least, or so they think in this form. Devon made like the final run, and he was like the last one out the gate when they all made it back and stuff like that. But it was basically pretty much wrapped up in a bow very neatly in a lot of ways. And Scrozzle gets away, but then he ends up coming back in the Christmas special, and that's kind of, I'll be interested to see whether that's made use of anymore in season 2, if it was just for the Christmas special, but whatever. But everything it was fine. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. There were some really cool moments, really cool ideas. It just felt so neatly wrapped up in that sense. Obviously, I'll talk about it in a second, but they did leave things open. Then you just kind of get like an epilogue-y scene, not epilogue-y, well I guess, you know what I mean, like kind of the, like, oh, the day is saved, here's us all getting our awards, and you have the 5 Rangers getting ready to get like commendations for what they did, and Ben and Betty get some as well, and then they have like a selfie with everybody, and this is where it definitely felt very like, oh, let's wrap things up, because obviously there's not a bunch of time to deal with the consequences of what Blaze and Roxy did and what they went through in the last, like, 1 minute 30 seconds of the episode, but it's just so neatly wrapped up, like, well, we were evil, tried to kill you all year, let's take a selfie. Like, I know they're avatars, so they purposely did that, so there's this level of responsibility removal, but I don't like that, and I'll talk about something about that in a second. But it was just all very neatly wrapped up. It's also kind of funny because I was always curious whether Blaze and Roxy might take their powers back at the end, and who knows, we could see something like that down the road. But all of their uniforms, and it made me wonder that when I saw a screen cap of this from right before I watched the Australian airings, is like, oh, maybe Blaze and Roxy are the Rangers again because Devin and Zoe are wearing those uniforms. But like, their uniforms all look like janitors' uniforms. Like, everybody's uniform, except for the commander, I guess, looks like a janitor's uniform. It's like the most boring uniform ever. So they're all wearing these janitor-like outfits, and it doesn't appear that they're getting their Ranger powers back, but everything was very neatly tied up there, even if it was a nice moment. And again, we are getting another season, and we know we are, so that kind of, you know, helps things a little bit. So you're thinking, if there's things that I feel like I'm missing from this story, we might get it next season. We'll see. Like, mainly with the Blaze and Roxy stuff. That's something I really wanted to see more of, but I guess it makes sense since we have a whole other season to go, and this was supposed to be the finale, that they wouldn't try again to address it in the last minute. So that's fine. But then there is that whole thing with the mayor being infected with something. I mean, obviously it's going to be Evox related, but we don't know whether it's a virus installed in him so that he might, you know, help Evox actually return, or if it's actually Evox himself. But it was a nice little mini cliffhanger to sort of let you know the story's not done and stuff like that. But overall, I thought this was a solid episode. I think I'd give it an 8. Again, just a little bit rushed. I wish that it had a little bit more time to breathe in some aspects, and it didn't feel as solid or balanced as last week's episode, which I think was a little bit of a better episode. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy the finale? Did you enjoy the season as a whole? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for all my videos. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.